Josh Green, tell us about your journey to becoming a professional racing driver, and when did you discover your passion for racing?
So it's hard to say an exact day where I discovered my passion for racing. When I was growing up, I was always very much into toy cars. I had probably like 1,000 Hot Wheels. I was obsessed with cars. Even from when I was like a toddler, I'd always flip stuff upside down with wheels and I'd spin the wheels. That was just my thing. When I was around, I think it was 9 or 10, my house has about 2 acres of backyard, but it's all completely unusable. It's just woods. So me and my dad walked down there. My dad was like, "Oh, we should build a go-kart track." And obviously, as a 10-year-old, I was like, "Of course.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Great idea, Dad."
We got rakes out. We raked out a dirt circuit and bought a $400 go-kart off of Amazon that was not ready for what it was about to go through, and ragged on it. And it was awesome. Such a good time. And then from there, when I was 12, I did an indoor go-karting camp at Grand Prix, New York, which is right in Mount Kisco. Actually, a lot of race car drivers have come out of there. And then I went up to Oakland Valley Race Park, which is basically the premier outdoor go-kart track in New York. And from there, went on to the national scene and then got into Formula 1600 in the form of Team Pelfrey, which was very helped by Robert McGinnis, a fellow Michelin Pilot Challenge driver. And then from there into USF 2000, Indy Pro, and then all the way up through Indy Lights. And now I'm here.
And now you're here. And it's great to hear that you're a car guy. Because with racing drivers, it can go either way. And, at the end of the day, in Michelin Pilot Challenge, we drive kind of cars that are directly related to the road cars. So you get to have at it with an AMG GT4.
Yeah, I mean, I've always loved the body style of the AMG GT stuff. I've not been fortunate enough to drive one, having worked in Monticello, but I'm so excited. It's also, to me, by far the coolest GT4 car that's on the grid right now.
Well, we like it. We like it for lots of reasons, but it is kind of cool looking.
It's really cool looking.
What's the greatest challenge you faced in your racing career, and how did you overcome it?
It was all mental for me. I struggled from very early on, honestly, just in my sports career in general, like regardless of racing, with being very, very hard on myself. I really struggled with sort of giving myself the slack that was needed to perform, right? Obviously, there's a certain amount of being hard on yourself that's positive to help you grow and, continue performing at a higher level, but I was way, way past that limit. And it worked for a little bit, and then eventually you get that burnout, and that burnout gets worse and worse and worse. And Jacques Dallaire, who's someone I got to see at Daytona, luckily enough, while wearing your guys' shirt, really helped me through that. He just helped me. He kind of unlocked the keys, or he gave me the keys to unlock the part of my mind that allowed me to succeed, that was okay with, maybe not doing the best on a certain weekend, and not okay with it, but okay with understanding that I did everything I could. And even though the result on paper wasn't what I wanted it to be, I still gave it everything I could. And I think that's a really important part of really any professional athlete's career, is the mental part, because you can be as strong or as talented as you want, but if mentally you're not strong enough to withhold all the pressure, you're never, ever going to be able to perform. So it was a huge sort of turning point in my career. It was when I was in the middle of my second USF 2000 year, and it really flipped everything on its head. After I saw Jacques and really started sort of employing those things, we started winning races. I won my first race in USF from that race that we met each other on. So it was, I think, Road America. It was the last 3 rounds, so last 6 races. We were the highest points scorers of any team, of any car, all the way until the end of the season. And I scored the first podiums and first win for turn 3 in USF. So it was really great.
So I have to say I'm a big fan of Dr. Dallaire. I refuse to call him by his first name, and he gets upset with me every time I greet him.
Fair enough. Yeah, I know when I first greeted him as Dr. Dallaire, it was like, stopping that right now.
Yeah, I can't. Given the incredibly talented racing drivers, forget all the other athletes, but all the incredibly talented racing drivers he's worked with, he is always Dr. Dallaire to me.
Yeah, 100%. I totally understand that. And honestly, his work is astounding. It's outrageous. The amount of people, it's hilarious when you're walking through the paddock and you bring up his name. Every single person knows who he is, and they've either worked with him and they have an ACT model, or they haven't worked with him and they want an ACT model.
Exactly. So. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan, and I'm so glad you're working with him. I think that's fantastic. Describe a moment in your racing career that defined you as a driver.
One of my sort of most defining moments was in karting. It was at a USPKS event, so United States Pro Kart Series. It was with Mike Doty Racing, who was the team I'd run with throughout my entire go-karting career. And It was GoPro Motorplex, which was basically everyone in the national circuit's home track. Every single person was native to there, and not me. It was a track that I was familiar with and that I was very comfortable with. It was my first year in senior in X30, the biggest class. There's probably like 45 karts in class. We'd just come off of a really good weekend in the first round of the championship. We had a couple podiums, and I was, I think, second in the championship going into there. And race one, so qualified P2 to my teammate, Brandon Jarzakrak. He was lifetime at GoPro kind of guy. Amazing human being, but just unbeatable there. He wins every national event there. I think he had a streak of winning overall every USPS event for the last like 8 years or something ridiculous. He wins the pre-final, no problem. I was able to hang with him, but took off. And then into the final of the first day, you know, I get up behind him, I catch up to the back of him, I overtake him probably lap 5, and from there on I'm just like, I'm never looking back. I'm just trying to sort of put the laps down, get to the end, right? Push as hard as I can. I'm like white knuckle trying to get everything out of it, and when we get to the last lap, I see the white flag, and I'm like, all right, I need to start defending. I look behind, and there's just no one there. Set the fastest lap basically every lap of the race and won by I think 8 seconds. And then the reason it was a defining moment was because it was really the first time that I felt that true confidence in myself. I think all the way up until that point, it was kind of, I never felt that, I never had a real belief in my talent, as weird as that sounds, but that weekend really cemented it for me and like, okay, yeah, I can do this. Like I can become a race car driver.
It is one of those moments, and it's a real switch that happens mentally when you know that you can command a race, and it's you know, it's difficult for people to understand who haven't done it, but you know, to me, I remember exactly when that happened. It's like, okay, yeah, I've got all the confidence to own this place and lead this race, and since then that you know that never left.
Yeah, 100%. It's two totally different things to win a race and to like dominate a race, right? Because I've won races up until that point. I'd won national events up until that point. I was fresh off of winning the WKA national championship in junior, but I had never dominated one of those races. I'd never controlled it. And this was like the first really big event that I was like, I have 100% control over this result.
What are you most passionate about outside of racing, and how does it connect to your life as a driver?
Outside of racing has to be photography, and a lot of film photography recently. It's really the biggest thing outside of my racing career, and the way that it connects is that I love to document my race weekends when I can. You know, I've shot for race teams before. I've brought a camera and shot professionally, but been paid to shoot at karting events and stuff like that. It was a gig that I'd do on the side sometimes, and I'd sell my photos, you know, undercut all the like national photographers that were there. But no, it's just something that I absolutely love to do. And my best friend behind the camera, like, we kind of met each other through photography. And ever since then, I've just been so enamored by the whole process, and being able to sort of bring that emotion out and that thing that you feel but you can't describe. That's been the thing that I've always looked for in my photography and in all of my creative works, is just to bring out that emotion that you have, sort of that feeling in your gut when you see something, you experience something that you can't really get across. So it's, yeah, and it blends very well with all my racing stuff, right? Because I have such an awesome story to tell that's so unique, and it gives me a way to tell it in my own way.
What made you decide to become part of the Thaze fam, and what excites you about representing this team?
I wanted to become part of the Thaze fam because, first of all, meeting you and Faisal on Zoom, you guys were two of the coolest people I've ever met in racing. And honestly, throughout my entire career, I've been super lucky to run with very family-like teams. Turn 3 and Pelfrey and all those guys, it was like one big family at the track. And even though in Formula Car racing, it's sometimes harder to get that, it was still like we were all one really strong program. And those are people that like, I know I'll have friends in them for life, whereas other race teams, obviously that doesn't happen. It's just, it's program, you get the job done kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And I knew this was going to be that type of program immediately from meeting you guys and from the way you talked about it. And then obviously meeting Mark and having Mark as a teammate is so cool. And obviously making the switch over to sports cars, having someone like Mark in the program is going to be such a leg up for me. I know I'm talented enough to make a car run at the front in whatever race car, but having someone like him with the wealth of experience that he does will be really good to push me forward.
And this is not being me being arrogant, because I have like, as a you know, a team principal with my partner Fassel, we have a big 4 IMSA starts under our belts, and we've done okay.
Yeah.
but now there's this expectation when we show up, we're not there to just fill a place in the grid. How do you consider dealing with that kind of pressure?
I don't see it as pressure. Look, the ultimate reality is people get race wins because they're prepared and they do a good job executing. And if me and Mark show up and we execute, and you guys and the team and the mechanics and everyone show up and they execute, I have no reason that we can't score a podium every time we show up. And obviously, A factors and B factors, stuff will happen, and it might mean that we don't get the result. But I see us contending every weekend, and if we don't, there'll be a real reason why, and we'll look into it, and it won't happen a second time.
What's the most outrageous and preferably legal thing you've done to gain a competitive advantage during a race?
Most outrageous? Well, I mean, one of the biggest things, actually, this is good, in go-karting. Another one in karting. It was WKA. I had read through the rule books right before the final event of the season. I was leading the championship by, I think, 20 points or something, which was it wasn't a lot, because there was like 300 points a race win or something like that. It was huge. And I had read the rule book, and nothing in the rule book said anything about the tram lines coming to the green. And I was on pole. And I know it was me and it was Smiles engineering mechanic right on the wrenches. And we were both talking about it, and I was like, okay, well then I'm going to make sure that the outside row starts on the grass. So we came to the green and we rolled onto the front straight, and I drove all the way out to the exit curb and just pinned it on the white line. And the dude starting to the left of me was just bumbling through the grass trying to get next to me, and then they went green because there was nothing in the rule book. And by the time I got to turn 2, I was like 5 and a bit seconds in the lead and didn't have to worry about anything for the whole race. So that's a competitive advantage.
I love this. So my second question is, have you read the IMSA rule book yet?
Not cover to cover yet.
Okay.
No, but
you got some
I'll
homework.
get on that. Yes.
Invent a new, totally nonsensical penalty for racing drivers who commit the most embarrassing mistakes.
It is tough. There's a lot of embarrassing things you can do to a person. I think the dunce cap, like just a big triangular like paper thing that attaches to the roof of the car that says dunce on it, would be really funny.
I'd like to see that in the paddock.
I think it'd be pretty good. And we can move it around from race to race. People can win the dunce cap by being the silliest.
Yeah. I think some feelings might get hurt.
But that's the point, isn't
Yes.
it? And then also, of course, there should be a trophy every weekend
Yeah.
for the worst thing done by a driver.
Yes.
I think that's important. I mean, so actually, funnily enough, USF Pro Championships. So when I was racing before, there was a trophy called the Golden Wishbone, which I think it was Haas. It was the parts distributor throughout the event, and they kept a tally of all the teams and the amount they were spending at the parts trailer. And the team that spent the most at the parts trailer got the Golden Wishbone, which was a golden wishbone. My teams have gotten it twice, but I haven't. Hasn't been due to me for the most part.
Okay.
So